welcome once again to our show, which is called Real Shame. I am Adam.
I'm Andy.
And in the show, we review movies that we haven't seen. And this week, we have movies that I haven't seen. And that's why I'm doing the intro for you guys. But before we get into the movie, which is title you will see on the thumbnail, let's talk about what we've been watching. Andy, what have you been watching?
All right. So this is actually a movie that you and I both watched, and Kirby as well. It's a video game adaptation from the 90s. And no, it ain't Street Fighter. And no, it ain't Super Mario Brothers, although we did watch those. And no, it ain't Mortal Kombat.
The Combats.
This is a movie starring Scott Wolf, Mark Dacascos, I hope I said his name right, Alyssa Milano, and Robert Patrick, the T-1000 himself, sporting blonde hair, a shock of blonde hair.
I wish we could all rock that these days.
And it's called Double Dragon. This is this is like a German region-free Blu-ray import that I got years ago.
And remastered.
It's uncut and remastered.
It's the Platinum Cult Edition.
And then recently, MVD Rewind Collection put out a version here in the States of Double Dragon. Both of the prints are kind of beat up. Neither one of them are like a fresh master. But it doesn't matter because they both suck. This movie's crap.
Why didn't we watch this one?
I don't know. They're about the same, I think. Yeah, they both suck. Nobody should watch Double Dragon.
There's not enough action. There's not.
No, there's not. Super Mario Brothers, I thought was like a masterpiece compared to Double Dragon. Super Mario Brothers really gets like pretty crappy reviews, but compared to this, and Street Fighter 2, compared to Double Dragon, they're both masterpieces.
It was the worst. It was the worst of the ones we've seen.
Absolutely, by far. And then, so skip Double Dragon. Don't watch it if you have.
Don't buy 2 copies of it.
I know. I don't know what I was thinking. But if you've never seen, or I mean, if it was like a childhood favorite of yours, then by all means watch it. But if you've never seen it, it sucks, and don't bother with it. Watch Street Fighter. Watch Super Mario Brothers. Watch Mortal Kombat.
Watch it at like 1.5 speed or something like that.
Something. It's awful. And then
I don't know if there's anything redeeming about the movie at all.
Not really.
No, the fighting's not great. There's nothing redeeming about it.
Sucks. And then the other movie that I watched, it goes along with the movies that we're talking about this week, without giving away what we're talking about on Wednesday. Obviously, today we're talking about Vertigo. We'll get into that. I watched another movie that is similar to Vertigo and similar to the movie that we're going to watch on Wednesday, and it is called Perversion Story. Don't get the glare. It's also known as One on Top of the Other, I think. This is a Lucio Fulci film. Lucio Fulci did, well, for one thing, he did a lot of gory Italian horror movies, but he did Conquest, which we watched, which you liked.
I like Conquest a lot.
The sword and sorcery movie.
Conquest is crazy, and it was so fun and weird.
Yeah, I wasn't as big a fan of it, but Perversion Story or One on... I'm pointing down because I threw it down on the ground. Perversion Story or One on Top of the Other is a really cool, like, giallo, as they're called, movie.
Yellow.
Which has, yellow, which has some similarities to the movies that we're going to talk about this week, which is why I watched it. And I thought it was good. I like Perversion. Perversion Story / One on Top of the Other / whatever you want to call it, Lucio Fulci. But that's what I've been watching, those 2 movies. What have you been watching?
Well, it's been a couple busy weeks for me, so I haven't got to watch too much. We're continuing watching Friday Night Lights. We're still enjoying it. I was wrong when I said it was... Well, I wasn't wrong. The first season is the only season that's 22 episodes. All the other seasons are like less than 15 episodes. So it moves. It's going by really quick. And part of that's because of the writer's strike that happened during the second season. But the movie I watched this week that I want to talk about is Death Becomes Her, directed by Bob Zemeckis.
Bob. His friends call him Bob.
His friends call him Bob. I think everyone calls him Bob. Corridor Crew is this YouTube channel that's pretty cool, and they do VFX artists reacts, stunt people react. I think I've talked about it on the show, and they did a react to the special effects in Death Becomes Her, and it happened at a time where they're still doing a lot of practical effects. The CGI is kind of new and all that kind of stuff, so the effects kind of hold up really well, and they look kind of cool for what it is, and they don't look dated like Mortal Kombat looks dated, when you watch those special effects.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Reptile doesn't look dated.
Not at all, no. So it's actually a really fun, interesting kind of movie, and I really liked it. You've seen Death Becomes Her, right? Everyone.
Yeah, it's been a while, but yeah.
Yeah, so I highly recommend checking it out if you haven't seen it. It's a fun movie.
Yes.
All right, so that's what I've been watching. Very short and sweet. Let's get into our feature review, and that's going to be
Vertigo from 1958. All right, after a tragic accident, Scotty Ferguson retires as a detective, but is hired by an old college acquaintance to follow his wife, Madeline, who has been acting very strangely. Scotty soon finds himself falling for Madeline, but her erratic behavior leads him down a twisted path of deceit and murder in Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo. Okay.
Well, I guess that just about covers everything, doesn't it? I never married. I don't see much of the old college gang. I'm a retired detective, and you're in the shipbuilding business. Now, what's in your mind, Gavin?
I asked you to come up here, Scotty, knowing that you'd quit detective work. But I wondered whether you'd go back on the job as a special favor to me. I want you to follow my wife. No, it's not that. We're very happily married.
Well, then,
I'm afraid some harm may come to her.
from whom?
Someone dead. Scotty, do you believe that someone out of the past, someone dead, can enter and take possession of a living being?
No.
If I told you that I believe this has happened to my wife, what would you say?
Well, I'd say take her to the nearest psychiatrist, or psychologist, or neurologist, or or maybe just the plain family doctor. I'd have him check on you, too.
So Vertigo is one of those movies that, when you mention Alfred Hitchcock, he's got so many great films, right? Yeah. And so you go, okay, well, what's Alfred Hitchcock's best film? Some people might say Rebecca. Some people might say Rear Window, North by Northwest, Psycho. But many people would say Vertigo, even though Vertigo wasn't like super highly well received whenever it originally came out in 1958. It's since been kind of reevaluated, and many people consider it his masterpiece. How many Alfred Hitchcock movies have you seen, roughly?
Let's say maybe half a dozen.
Half a dozen? Yeah, but Vertigo's not one of them.
Vertigo's
until now.
Not one of them.
All right.
Maybe less.
Something like that.
Something
anyway,
like that, yeah.
But you've added, but you've seen Psycho.
Seen Psycho.
You've seen Rebecca.
No.
North by Northwest.
I own it. I haven't seen it. I don't think.
Maybe
what?
The Trouble with Harry. No. Okay. But Vertigo. Anyway, we've corrected that now. You've seen Vertigo.
I know it's like Sight and Sound's #1 movie and all that kind of stuff.
What did you know about Vertigo going into it, and what did you think about Vertigo? Did it give you vertigo? First of all, watching it.
So with Vertigo, I thought there was a part that happened at the Statue of Liberty where the main character was hanging off of it and stuff like that. But
it's North by Northwest.
It's North by Northwest.
Yes.
That's not Vertigo.
Yes.
So I didn't know much.
Or Remo Williams.
Or Remo Williams.
I think you were thinking of Remo Williams. Yeah. Not an Alfred Hitchcock film, but still a great film.
I have seen word for word of the Remo Williams.
I'm still waiting on the sequel. It says Remo Williams will return in the credits, and I'm still waiting.
Yeah. Get on that.
What is it, 36 years later?
Yeah, I was thinking Frank Grillo should play Remo Williams. The new ones. Reboot it with him.
Okay.
But we're not talking about Remo Williams, or are we?
We can.
Go ahead. So I didn't know much about Vertigo. Obviously, I know what Vertigo is, and that's where you get that disorienting feeling and stuff like that. It's not arachnophobia, where you're scared of heights and all that kind of stuff.
Arachnophobia.
Fear
of spiders. Acrophobia.
Acrophobia.
There you go.
Why do you guys listen to me? We're really giddy right now. So what was the other question? So yeah, I didn't know much about going into Vertigo. Other than, it's really highly lauded, like it's making all these kind of top of lists and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I thought it didn't do a whole lot for me. Well, the one thing I want to ask you is, should we spoil it or should we do spoilers on this? I feel like it's an old movie.
Let's spoil it.
Okay.
Why? We only don't spoil, or we only put spoiler warnings on new movies.
Yeah, okay.
I say go to
it. So I think this movie does a huge disservice to itself. And the most interesting part, the part where I actually gasped out loud, that really shocked me, was when she was writing the letter that she ended up tearing up, and she was doing the voiceover where she was writing it, and then I think she had the flash about what really happened to his wife, right, and how she really died. And that was so interesting, and like it put the whole story into perspective, because so when I'm watching the beginning part, I'm like, okay, they're kind of, it feels kind of supernaturally, like they're trying to make it feel a little supernaturally. And I'm like, has Alfred Hitchcock really done anything supernatural? Like, this is kind of interesting. Like, I'm trying to wait to see if it's, really supernatural, or if it's going to be like, real world that happened, but it just makes you think it's supernatural, if that makes any sense. And so we get to and so the whole time you're kind of wondering what's going on. And then when she falls out of the bell tower, you're like, okay, that's interesting. And like, it just feels very like, not paint by number. It feels very like standard. It doesn't feel elevated or different or anything. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. And then when we get to the part where she's writing that letter and she talks about it, that's when it all clicks. And I'm just like, I wish we could have seen Jimmy Stewart's face when he realized that. We get it like 40 minutes later when he goes up to the bell tower again and confronts her and all that kind of stuff. But I wish that revelation just happened with him, and it was like based on character, and like we could feel it. We could get his reaction to all that and feel it that way, instead of just this kind of voiceover thing. And for me, it just kind of deflated the movie, right? And I just feel like it did it a disservice. So and then the other thing is the movie has long stints where there's no dialogue at all. It's a lot of him driving in the car and stuff like that, and like it doesn't feel like a very dialogue heavy movie. You know what I mean? So I don't know how I feel about it, because like I said, that revelation really worked for me and it caught me off guard. But also I was like, this is like the worst place to put it.
Well, I think they put that in. It seems like to kind of tell the audience this is what happened in case they don't get it.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of why they did that, or why they put that in there. They don't necessarily. She doesn't necessarily explain it to him. It's more for the audiences, and then he kind of figures it out because she's wearing that necklace.
Yeah.
And so he's like, "Oh, hey, wait, now I get it."
Yeah, no, and I get that, but it's just like, man, that's just like they just like pulled the rug out from under themselves. Like, this could have been it's such a great kind of like, realization, or like turn and twist, and like, we talk about like movies like, the Sixth Sense and stuff like that have like giant like twists that you don't see coming. And I feel like there's movie
a twist in the Sixth Sense. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, sorry. I was like, what? Wait, what? I know I almost said Fifth Element, but did I say something wrong?
No.
So I just feel like it doesn't do that. Like, maybe, I don't know. Like I said, and Psycho has a big twist. So I just felt like, it just really undercut the movie for me, because it just didn't put that in a character moment. It just felt like it kind of threw away, like almost like it was like a studio note or something like that. Like, the people are going to be so confused. You gotta throw them a bone here and stuff like that. And I wish like they would have saved it, or we could have just read that on like Jimmy Stewart and all that kind of stuff,
They kind of do the same thing in Psycho. The guy that explains Norman Bates at the end is unnecessary to us as a modern audience. But at the time, they didn't think audiences would get it. They were like, oh. So they have the guy the psychiatrist kind of explain, well, you see, when Norman was his mother, he was, whatever. Yeah. And it's like, it's not really necessary.
But they explain away after the realization that it's Norman, right?
Yeah, it's at the very end.
So you get the shock that it's Norman.
Yeah.
I mean, you get the shock of the main character, the main lady dying, right?
True.
And then you find out it's not an old lady, it's Norman. Yeah. But for this movie, it's like, we're gonna spoil it for you before you even get to the So for me, that just kind of like took the wind out of my sails a little bit. So the last half of the movie, I was just like, man, like it really caught me, and like it really like surprised me that was the case. But I was just like, man, that's just kind of like just felt like it just did it a disservice,
Yeah.
So I'm really confused why a lot of people really like this movie.
Well, they'll probably let you know in the comments.
Hopefully.
I like this movie. This isn't my favorite Alfred Hitchcock movie, but I do like it quite a bit. I like the colorfulness of it. I mean, so it's VistaVision or whatever, which is sort not Technicolor, but it kind of reminds me of Technicolor. It's very, very colorful. Kim Novak is beautiful as Madeline, and I don't remember what the other character that she plays. I wish I'd written that down.
The one from Kansas.
But she's great. Barbara Bel Geddes is also in it. She has kind of a thankless role. She's kind of just Scotty's, you get the feeling she kind of pines after Scotty a little bit. But Barbara Bel Geddes would be known to audiences mainly as Miss Ellie on Dallas much later. She was on the television show Dallas. She was the matriarch of the Ewing family, JR's mama. But anyway, she's in this movie for what it's worth. Other than that, Alfred Hitchcock has his little cameo.
As he always does.
Walking down the street. But no, I like Vertigo. I like... Again, kind of I like the fact that it's this kind of, as you said, almost like a supernatural. It has that kind of feel, even though it's not really supernatural. There's nothing supernatural going on, but it kind of has that supernatural feel. The Bernard Herrmann score, I feel like, adds a lot to it, which, Bernard Herrmann scored just about every Hitchcock film there was. I know he didn't score the last one, Family Plot, because I think they had a falling out before that. But Bernard Herrmann went on to do Taxi Driver that same year, 1976, and he also did another movie, which we're going to talk about on Wednesday. So it has this kind of like surreal, supernatural feel, but it takes place in San Francisco, which is like really brightly lit, and you've got them going up and down the San Francisco streets. They go to the Golden Gate Bridge at one point, or underneath it is where she kind of dives in, and then the mission San Bautista or whatever it's called was an actual mission that they used, but the tower is fake. They use like a matte painting or whatever. I find it interesting that Scotty himself seems like a good guy. He just has this crippling acrophobia, vertigo thing, which ends up. So first of all, a policeman dies at the beginning trying to save him, so he's kind of responsible for that.
Yeah, we start like kind of in media res, right? Like in the middle of all this
right.
stuff going on.
It's no real fault of Scotty, but he just has that fear. But he ends up retiring because of that, and then when his college friend's wife gets thrown off, which you think is Madeline, he can't save her because he can't go all the way up to the bell tower.
Purposefully so.
At the end, right, purposefully so. But then at the end, he finally overcomes his fear of heights or whatever. And he still loses this girl who he's in love with. So the poor guy just can't catch a break. But no, I mean, I like this film. It's again not my favorite. I don't know what my favorite Hitchcock film would be. It might be Psycho, honestly. And also, I really like Rear Window because again, with Jimmy Stewart and Grace Kelly, they make a really, really good duo. So either one of those. But I mean, Hitchcock's got so many great films. I can see what you're saying about Vertigo a little bit, but I feel like you're going to get a lot of hate.
I probably will. I mean, I just like of the movies we've seen, like Vertigo is no Casablanca. It's no even Citizen Kane. It's no Kong, like the original 1933 Kong. I mean, there are movies that we've seen for this podcast that I haven't seen before that I would hold up higher than Vertigo.
Yeah.
I mean, the dream sequence is crazy and weird and just like a left turn. And, I mean, obviously, I love the Saul Bass kind of title sequence. I mean, you can't
looks cool.
begrudge that. Like, Saul Bass, he's awesome. Like, it's really cool.
Saul Bass.
It's just, I wish there was, like I said, I just feel like that revelation happening in the middle of the movie just really just like, did a disservice to me, and I don't know if I can come back from it. I guess I don't know. So that's I guess that's what sunk the ship for me. That's what sunk my battleship. Battleship Potemkin.
Well, we've got plenty of other Alfred Hitchcock films that we'll have to do on the show. Maybe you'll like those better. I actually watched Vertigo, so this is the 4K. Ooh. 4K Hitchcock collection. It's got Rear Window, Vertigo, Psycho, and The Birds. I mean, I like The Birds, but I'm like, The Birds? Really? But anyway, Vertigo in 4K looks amazing. I couldn't help but marvel at how wonderful it looks in 4K. It was nominated for just Best Art Direction and Best Sound, and I don't think it won either one. I found it interesting on AFI's 100 Best Movies. In the original list, it was number 61. In the newest edition, which is from 2007, I think, it moved all the way up to number 9. So it jumped all the way up into the top 10.
I don't know what 61. The love is. Like I said, I was reading on IMDb. Apparently, the movie was not put out or anything for like 30 years. Like there was like a big period of time. I think it was
where it wasn't seen.
Where it wasn't seen and stuff like that, and had like a resurgence after that and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now it's very beloved. It's 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, 93% audience score. It got 2 thumbs up. No, Siskel and Ebert did not have a show back in 1958, but they did it on like a, some video pick of the week or something. Yeah, something like that. Movies that made them want to become critics, something like that. But they both love it. 2 thumbs up. And Leonard Maltin gives it 4 stars.
Of course he does.
So the movie that I paired it with, there's a few movies that have kind of a similar theme to Vertigo, where you've got a woman and then something happens to her, and then somewhere down the line there's another woman who looks exactly like her. I mean, Perversion Story, or One on Top of the Other, is a movie. The Lucio Fulci movie that I mentioned earlier is kind of like that. And there's some others I kind of went through, but the one I decided to go with is a movie that neither one of us has seen. Surprisingly, because I've seen a lot of Brian De Palma films, but it's Brian De Palma's film, came out 18 years after Vertigo in 1976, and it's called Obsession. We will be talking about Obsession on Wednesday, so stay tuned for that.
All right, guys. And on those Wednesday episodes, we always answer viewer questions. So please send those questions to us to our email address, realshame@gmail.com. We're on social media @realshame. Like, subscribe, share the show. It really does help, and we really do appreciate that. And stay tuned to Wednesday when we go into and we figure out what Brian De Palma's obsession is.
Hitchcock. That's his obsession.
Yep, sure. and the split diopter. He loves them split diapers.
He does.
All right, and we'll see you soon, guys. Bye.